Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
Yo, Causing the Effect community. I am lucky enough to get to talk to author, great individual, but my friend at this point, Greg Davis. Greg, how are you? Cornerstone of the podcast. What is up, my man?
Well. I'm happy to be back, Scott. I'm so happy.
I love talking to Greg, one of the most authentic people, one of the most heart-driven human beings. And honestly, Greg, like your books listen, I've read a lot of good stuff. I'm reading, Denial of Death right now. I'm reading Viktor Frankl's The Man's Search of Meaning. But there's something with the way that you portray. I don't know, maybe it's because it's part I know you, it's part I know your story, it's part I know the struggles. But your books have helped me get to other levels that just have given me peace, but also courage at the same point. So
Thank you, Scott. I like to keep it simple and straightforward and digestible for people, because that's the point, right? For you to take a piece or pieces and then go and make your life more full.
Exactly.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, Greg, go. I don't even know.
What?
I don't know. I think that this is going to come out next week. So for people who don't know, I was jumped. I guess we call it mugged I don't want to say mugged, Greg, because that means that they got something. But I filled Greg in about an hour and a half ago. So he's just fresh off. I was like, Greg, just so you know, I'm a little bit of black eye. Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Greg's going to interview me. Shoot.
What is going to be the title of this episode? I'm curious.
I don't know. It'll pop up. It'll pop up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make a few notes as we go.
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's give us the background.
So this is what happened for everybody, and I'm so happy Greg gets to hear this. I'm interested to know. I've heard different things. I've heard everybody, more family people. So what happened was Saturday night. It is Scott's favorite week of the year. It's New York Fashion Week, Greg. It means all the hotties are out. It means everybody's out, all of this good stuff. And I'm sitting with my friends on Friday night at their beautiful house. I would say the married, boring guys, right? On Friday night, beautiful Seaford, stars are out. We're sitting there, and I'm like, guys, I really don't even want to do this tomorrow. I don't even want to go out. And Greg, there's something that's been going on this year. I'd say there's maybe a little maturity happening or something. Like sometimes I just know, I don't know. There's something when you go out to these places and it's like all built on, I don't know, some sort of fakeness, and you're sitting there and you're doing, I was like, I just don't even want to go. But I ended the conversation with the married guys going, I'm not going. Saturday night, I end up getting a little bit of the peer pressure. I end up, I could have just not went. Really, I didn't want to let people down, because there's that part of me that, didn't want to let people down, and, it's not a good time. As I'm going to leave the nightclub, call an Uber, blindsided. Boom. So that's where that really came from. That's really the only thing that happened. More or less.
Right in front of the nightclub, or is it off to the side?
So 50 to 60 feet away from the nightclub. Now, this is a Moxie hotel with a rooftop and a nightclub. So, Greg, this is a pretty busy spot. Yeah. East 11th, 3rd Avenue, downtown Manhattan. There's people. So while this is going on, like, I know I'm not like in a abandoned street, or I'm not by myself. Like, it's downtown Manhattan. It's the lower east side. It's pretty popping. And the fact that these guys try to do it anyway, it's just testament to, like, what the hell's going on in New York City. But get popped. Now, to give everybody a mindset of where I'm at, I was looking at my phone, ordering late night food because I didn't have a big dinner. So I'm looking in my brain. I'm like, half drunk, chicken fingers, macaroni cheese bites.
Chicken fingers.
Uber. Here comes the Uber. I'm going out. All of a sudden, wham! I thought I got hit by a truck, because it's been a while since I've been hit. Right? When do you get hit? Ripped my face open, so my face is bleeding now pretty bad. So in my head, I was like, this is not gonna, I'm like, I'm ugly, all this crazy stuff happens. Three black guys, I don't care, it's my show, I can say whatever I want. 3 black guys tell me, run your shit, which means give up all your stuff. In that moment, I probably I know it's the tough guy decision, but probably not the wise decision. And I think Greg said it best. I was in fight or flight. So if these guys came up to me and said, run your stuff, I may have been more applicable, because I'm not in my emotions. I was like, oh, this is weird. But because I was hit first, out of nowhere, you're going from calm food to this, I went into, I would say, a rage. I was like out. Now my sister's Sable just got promoted to a detective. Shout out to Sable. Sable has the video from the. She said I was out of control. So I was seeing red. I was like, I'm not giving up anything. So they say, run your shit.
There's a video of this?
Yes, I'm trying to get the video. I can't show it to the public probably, but I can definitely show you, Greg. They hit me. I don't know who that was. This was like old Scott. It was like, and listen, it's been a tough year, Greg. I told you we're dealing with cancer. We're dealing with lawsuit. My mom, there's a bunch of shit happening. So these guys must have just caught the rage of Scott. And I think it was all purposed forward. So they say, run your shit. I say, over my dead body, you're going to have to kill me. And I scream that. And I think I was part in my subconscious screaming to make a scene so people would see it. But these guys, right when that could have went horribly, correct? And for people listening, do not do that. That was me acting out of emotion, rethinking it. If in my right mind, probably wouldn't, but I don't know. And we'll ask for Greg's opinion on that too.
But that's what we were talking about, though. That's a great point. You were totally in fight to flight. You weren't thinking 10 minutes ahead. You were thinking
I
not
wasn't
even 10 seconds ahead.
Not
you
thinking, not being, not that was I would say the most primitive part of me came out into like, okay, this is what, like, and I think in deep down, Greg, that's like where I'm so used to that space of like, because everything's the biggest deal when you have anxiety, right? It's like, that's where you push. So I was like, that guy was like waiting to come out. It's just now it's about time. You freak out about everything else. Now you're really gonna freak out. So do this whole thing, and as I'm doing this place is a very busy place. There has to be 40 to 50 people outside. So in my head, I'm going, all right, I'm not going to get like there's something. But even when I reacted that way, I can tell these guys were not expecting it. And I don't think I was expecting it. So even that gave me a little more confidence. They had these looks like, okay. And then, so here it starts. I'm not a fighter, no training, a little bit of boxing, a little bit of BJJ, but nothing crazy. But I do use my brain. I go, I can't hit the floor. And I just have to get the numbers down. So I react first, which is the weirdest thing. So it's 3. And I would say not the biggest guys, but not the smallest guys, normal looking dudes from what I remember. Run at 1 and push him to the ground. So I run full speed, push 1, come back and like just re kind of evaluate. 2, okay, just don't go down. Don't go down. I'm trying to like, just a little bit of this. 1 grabs me. So now we're tussling. I get hit a couple other times here, but nothing bad. By this point, the security at the hotel comes running down. So this all happened, Greg, probably within 60 to 90 seconds. Nothing crazy. Yeah, so 1 shot, besides the blind side, maybe I got hit a couple of times, but nothing bad, thank God, knock on wood. And this dude in security was the bald, mustache, vest, like, thank God.
Big guy, yeah.
Thank God. And as soon as he ran over, they started running away.
Yeah. So
that was it. Not a crazy situation. I mean, it's a little crazy, I guess. Yeah. But that's the situation, Greg. Your thoughts?
And then this afterwards, there's blood. I'm sure
there is
everywhere.
It is a my whole face. Like, this is just a really bad, anything above this is what the EMT told me. Anything up by your eyes and up is always the worst cut because your brain carries a lot of blood. So I'm bleeding, Greg, I would say like a waterfall of blood down here. And every person you walk past as I'm waiting, because they put me in the like in the lobby, whatever, like in the medic thing. Everybody I'm walking past like, oh my God. So I'm like, it's over. Like I'm not pretty anymore. This is all done. Whatever. EMT comes, the cops come, we tell them what happened, all this good stuff. EMT like immediately calms me down. He's like, listen, I know you see a lot of blood. I know what you're thinking. He's like, I know you're well dressed. You're going to be fine. You need maybe 4 to 5 stitches across your head. He's like, I don't know how you got out of it with just this. Did you hit? Yeah. And I explained the whole thing. Now we're a week later when you see this, not terrible. My mother, God bless her soul, exploded when I told her this, because the one thing I knew, Greg, was you can't, on everything on your face, you don't want to just go get stitched up. So we waited till the next day. Had to find a plastic surgeon. Beautiful job, all good. So honestly, I'm really not. I don't know. I just feel different, Greg. I can't really figure it out. Maybe we're gonna figure it out together. But
that's where I wanted to go now. I mean, I wanted to hear the story, but then okay, So now what? Because it's been, you said it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been basically a week, 6 days.
Been a week. So what are you telling yourself right now? Like, so I'm not a medical doctor. You know, you got the stitches. You're beautiful again. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So what are you telling yourself right now about this? Like internally?
So
Because I think this can be one of those things in life. You never know when it's going to happen. It's usually unexpected. That's like, oh, okay, I got it now.
I think what happened was, I would say this year, in previous years, and Greg's been on, I don't know how many freaking times, too many times, you've seen there. I would say this year before this, I just felt like I was missing a mojo, or I was missing a piece of myself. And I guess if you want to try to put a word on it, confidence. And maybe that is, I would say this has been one of the years where I've taken the least action. Not for any I would, yeah, just because you get caught up in, everybody knows on the podcast, my aunt was dealing with cancer. My mother's going through a lawsuit. There's just a lot of things that I would say I was so up in my head about. And I guess for me, like the shift that made me want to do comedy, do the podcast, was a divorce, which is a very traumatic thing, which I pretty much, you go through your emotions, but it really shifted something. And to answer your question, how I'm feeling is I'm feeling resilient. That's what the answer I would say. And I think I forgot how resilient I am by nothing. Like, you're just kind of lulling through the year, feeling bad for yourself. That's honestly what it's been for me this year. It's like lulling. Oh, okay. Well, nobody loves my mother. No, why is this happening to me? And realizing, all right, I'm looking at this like, I'm glad if it was going to happen to somebody. If it happened to somebody in my family, nobody would be able to handle it the way but not only physically, I'm saying emotionally, just kind of letting it, like, everybody's asking me about it. I'm like, yo, we're good. Like, dog, we're good. Like, don't worry. It's just kind of part of the process. So in a weird way, this has been like one of the best weeks I've had all year, Greg.
Yeah.
Weird.
I can see that on your face right now.
Odd enough to say. And I will say this is what happened this week as well. From this, I was having I was holding on to something at work. This situation with my contract that was just, it didn't feel right. So how much can I go? Greg, I'll try to explain it without getting too detailed. But basically, it's like when do I get paid? My whole shtick was, I always got paid a couple months after the cash came in. I didn't know the market was you should get paid when your company gets paid. That's what the market is. So I just keep my mouth shut and was just holding on to this anger. I would say I've been pretty angry at work. And I don't know what the hell. I called my boss. I told him Sunday, listen, I got this whole thing, stay home, work from home, blah, 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 blah. We love you. I said, no, I gotta come in. So I go on Tuesday. So listen, we gotta talk about this. We talk about it. I explained this thing, and I made this whole story that I'm gonna speak my truth, and I'm gonna get fired. And in my head now, this is probably it. Going into Tuesday, I was like, if it's gonna happen, this is the week. I'm gonna get mugged, I'm gonna get fired, and all this stuff. And I go in, I tell my boss this whole thing. I lay it out, and this is a 74-year-old Jewish man who's very tight with his money. That basically, I'm saying, you have to pay me about $100,000 in the next 2 weeks. This is what's happening.
You got the black eye. Still got
black
some
eye
blood in your hair.
I look way worse, and I'm and he was very accommodating with everything. But so I walk in and I do my whole thing, but I was calm, and I sat. I on the train and in the morning. I probably sat on what I'm going to say, and I laid out what I'm going to say. I'm going to do everything. It reminded me when I was doing comedy. Because I remember in Fight or Flight, that book was my favorite, honestly, Greg, out of all years. Fight or Flight, you'd say you have to be prepared for things, and you have to. And I just, okay, because I know I get a little off the rails when I start getting emotional, as we see. So I lay out these things to him, and his response is so apologetic. Scott, I've never thought about it this way. I just never did it this way. Blah, 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 blah. I am truly sorry. We'll send you a check next week. Unbelievable. I sat on this for like the last 4 months, Greg, and just got myself upset for literally no reason. All I had to do was speak up. So,
and I think if I can say it a little different way, I think from what I'm taking away from the first story and combined with the second story, you were preparing for a fight with your boss. Like, you had worked this up to a degree that I don't know what you were thinking exactly, but he's not going to pay me the money I'm owed right now, and this is the norm in my industry, and I'm ready. I'm going for it. We're going to get bloody, so to speak.
Yes,
So
but
your default is to go to the fight, not the flight necessarily. You're going to go to fight, right?
I was trying just to not get because I had like I would say I wouldn't have done it. I would have more just walked in and been like, listen, this is how I'm feeling. But because I saw how emotional I can get, and I knew that's my issue. Is that anytime I'm weird, I'm scared to have these conversations with people, and it's weird because the people that you're closest with are the most important ones, and those are the people you should have conversations with. And I've always had this issue, like just having, whether it's like a cousin or this, like just saying, this is how I'm feeling right now, like this, and this is why. And anytime that comes up, it's been an issue for me. But doing it this way, I was like, I just have to hit these 4 points. I was so calm, and maybe I was expecting a fight, like you said, like I thought I would come in and say this, and he would say this, and then maybe when I came in, I didn't even come in not hard. I just said, listen, and he felt so bad about it. I was like, oh shit, like I totally misconstrued this whole situation, like, and I work very close. So he's the president. Me and his son are principals. So his son literally, like, it's funny because his son's telling me like he doesn't do anything on purpose. He's just, you're an old man, like you just don't pay attention. And then I walked out and he's like, he had no idea, right? I was like, yeah, he's just fucking oblivious. And it's like that is how I think most people, like anytime you have an issue, the person's probably just oblivious to how you're feeling because they're dealing with all their other shit. And it was just like a very eye-opening week, Greg. It's just so crazy.
That is a fabulous point. Let's go a little deeper into that because you made up this story in your head about how it was going to go, and you put it off and you let it, the emotion. I think that is what people do in life. They never, take a step back, say, you know what, I really don't have all the facts here. Let me go talk to my boss. They put it off. They quit. They get a new job or whatever without even checking it out. So I applaud you for, you made up the story and you put it off, but then you went forth in a calm way in order to create a win-win for you and your company and your boss, right?
Yeah, like it just showed me because I guess part of it is like your mind just fills in all the blanks for all this other stuff. And you just have like anger, and then your anger and you're feeling a lack, you feeling the rest. Like, oh, they don't want you, they don't need you. And it's like everything he said was just the opposite. Like literally no fight. Like, what do you think's fair? 100? Okay, I'll write you. Here's a check for 100,000. We get it on Monday. Oh, okay. And I guess I hate that I have to get a mugging to kind of speak up to like, but it is what it is. And like for people, anybody holding on, I would just say what I realized, Greg, no matter, even if I got $10, the energy I'm working at this week, like I just feel lighter, man. I'm like lighter. It's a fucking mugging, and you had to have probably the biggest tour I've had in my professional life. It's like, I just feel like I literally feel like I'm floating through space and time.
Well, what are you taking away from this moment, from this week, going forward though?
I think I have to not let the external world, the material world, push me to a point where I'm forced to do something. Like I can tell you, if I didn't have this whole situation, if something wasn't put forth to me. So this is exactly, I'm so happy you thought about this because I was thinking like, oh, I react well to these situations when there's something dramatic, but maybe that it's almost like I'm waiting for them to happen to give myself a reason to let go, like that's what I think. I think this week I let go of everything because like having money's nice, and I was like all upset. Like money meant like I was getting so attached to it. It's like it wasn't even about the money. It was about a feeling of getting put over by people or doing this or that. So like I've not only realized like anger, that shit is like toxic, man. So that's like what I've been thinking about this week is like, because I tend to hold anger, or I don't know, Greg, it's weird. So like when somebody breaks up with a girl, and now we're just getting into it, right? A person, like I just tend to like, you're shut out and you're out. Like it's weird. And this is what I've done my life with people that I have issues with. And I'm like, I thought I'm winning because I'm just blocking you or your text, or I'm blocking you on Instagram. I'm doing these things. And while I'm the one paying the price for it, I'm the one that's holding these anger, feeling weird about it. When it's like, why are you doing that? And I guess we could try to figure out like I don't know where I got this from, but I tend to do this more often than I would like to admit, honestly, Greg. So it's a lot of different shit, man.
The way I see that point is, and if I'm in a similar situation, a bad situation, I do my best to take a step back and say, okay, how would an ethical person, how would the strong way forward, how would a leader handle this? And I think I've done that, cut people off. Oh, I'm done, delete, bye, block. But is that really the way a leader would handle the situation, whether it be personal or professional? No, the leader's going to say the words. It's going to handle it like you handle with your boss. Create some key points, go in and present your side of it, and then get to an agreement about what's healthy for the situation.
Yeah, dude.
I think when we run away and hide, we're taking the easy way out. We're being weak and playing self-defeating game with ourselves, and
Yeah, because then
we
you just
lose, like
keep,
you were saying.
yeah, dude, you just
Mhm.
keep doing it then. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm looking at I don't and yeah, it's just interesting. Like
So
how
maybe,
these
yeah, because
go
maybe I
ahead.
don't care what she or my past boss or whatever thinks about me, but I care about what I think about me a couple of days later when I think, oh, is that really, the best way, the most healthy way for me to handle it? And that's the only thing that really matters is how can I look at myself in the mirror in a couple of days and go, yep, I stood up for myself and no, you're not running away with anything
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah, like did exactly. And I guess I don't even, I guess most people don't notice it. Like maybe people don't know the shit you do, but you know what you do. And even if nobody finds out,
Yes.
you find out about it. And I
Yeah.
think like I'm uncovering this with you as we go because I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit. Like, and I would say the core of this has been, I guess it's been like with my father, Greg, because it's like that's always the trump card for me. It's like I hold so that relationship. It's not that I'm trying to not block him. I'm being honest. I try to like understand him and want to be near him, but we're just so different. I guess there's an anger and
Mhm.
resentment from like, oh, where
Mhm.
were you for 20 years? Why did you leave and have to go into witness protection program and do all these
Mhm.
things that like putting yourself in the shoes of another person and like will help you want to speak up more? Or maybe you can tell me if you did you have this issue when you were I'm assuming when you were a kid maybe, or was this ever a problem for you, like speaking up how you feel with a loved one? Or I know this is part of one of those books you were writing, like how
Well, I think from
connection.
my personal story is more about me just refusing to speak up because I learned how to be the good boy, so to speak. That's my word, and I would get passed over and get moved along, and people might smile at me and wave, but it was never any deeper than that, and it worked
Yeah.
until, like you were saying just a few minutes ago, with blocking people. It worked until I realized, whoa, I'm losing out big time. I have a lot of gifts here. I'm a solid leader. Nobody knows it. No one has a clue I have all these gifts to give because I don't ever speak up for myself and say the words
So it wasn't speaking up for yourself in like a personal thing with an issue. It was more speaking up to the world.
to the world. Oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And so I think that when if we take it back to the the father relationship, we have to look at yeah, he's guilty for not being there for 20 years. But does you get anything out of blaming him on one more day, one more time?
No.
No, it doesn't bring you anything except for criticizing, condemning him, which doesn't get you anything out of life. I mean, this could be a whole podcast about mother father stuff, right? About dad stuff, about a man to a son. But I think you have to decide, what do you really want out of that relationship? And obviously, I don't know, but maybe it's not a deep relationship. Maybe it's a coffee every now and again, and that's what you want. Or maybe it's something deeper, and so you're gonna have to do some real hard, deep in perspective work on what that relationship looks like in a healthy manner for you.
When you think about what you want
Yeah,
out of it. Yeah, isn't like it's really just simple. But if you think about, if you sit and ponder on what you want and then tell the person or ask or speak that way I did with the boss about it, maybe you can get it.
if you never ask, you're never gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you're not clear on what you want, you're never going to get it. Once you sit down and think about what you want, clarity out of that relationship, and then you talk about it, chances are you're going to get it. I think that's what people want in our lives, is for us to reach out and get what we want.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what my boss. That's one of the things he said to me like this week. Because now I came in, I'm all happy. He said, "Why don't you just ask sooner?" And in my head, and I didn't say this to him, I said, "You should have fucking known." And there's another issue right there,
Right.
Greg. Right?
That's a
Everybody,
game, right? That you should have known. That's just a big game.
yeah, and that's
If
the
you
whole
really cared about me as an employee, you would have known. I mean,
right.
if you really care, if you really love me as a husband or wife, you would have known.
Right.
It just doesn't
Where
work.
do you think that
I mean,
comes
it'd be
from, Greg?
nice.
Greg, that's
What's
like my
that?
crutch. That's my crutch. That saying, if you would have really known, and like what's saying happy birthday, like
Right.
motherfucker, I'll tell you, Greg, you don't say happy birthday to me, we're gonna have a fucking problem. Like people should have known. Like my best friend doesn't care about birthdays, and we had this fight like over 20 years, 3 times. Maybe he'll miss it. I don't care if you don't wish. It's like it's just seeing it from another perspective. And I know I'm pretty self-aware, and I always thought I was aware of other people, and I'm realizing I don't know shit about other people. And that's why I'm like, wow, like it's hard to put yourself in another person's shoes. Like truly.
There's only one way is through, being emotionally open with that person and talking about those things. What's important to you, what does you value in life. But once again, what you were saying earlier, we don't do those things with the people we love the most in our lives. We just assume that they know it, or assume can they see it, and what it does is it sets up lots of hurt feelings. I think your conversation with your boss is a great one. It sets up hurt feelings. It sets up resentment over days, weeks, months, or years, and it builds. And until there's like this huge explosion, and then we got a huge mess to clean up, right?
Right, you got that right. And that's really like this whole weekend, because it started on Friday. So I went over my friend's house. The reason I went over my friend's house was to basically do that, because I have a friend, we won't name him, but you know who you are, you motherfucker. He's been very distant, and I'm trying to hang out with him. You want to go out, you want to do this, you want to go out, and very nice person. Again, I feel like I'm an idiot. I went over his house, and we're sitting there, we're talking about some stuff, and he said, listen, you always ask me to go out, and I don't have the money right now because I lent this person in my family $15,000. It's been stressing me out. I'm actually working 7 days a week. I haven't not worked in the last 60 days. That's why I can't see. And I'm sitting there going, aren't you an asshole? Like, I am a dick. Like, I'm sitting here making it about me, and it literally has nothing of the sort to do with me. And I was like, shit. Like, again, it's the same shit that just keeps happening over and over again. I think that there was like a lesson. Like, I'm getting it banged on my head. Like, when are you going to learn? When are you going to learn?
That's the way the universe works. Until you learn the lesson, you're going to keep getting it, right? Keep getting it. Keep getting it. So I have another question for you.
Yeah, man.
So, and maybe you haven't come to this place yet, but what have you, especially after the mugging, what have you left undone in your life? What is one thing you've left undone in your life?
Shit, Greg, I don't even know if I told you. Did I tell you the whole comedy story? Did we discuss this?
I don't think so. I know pieces of it.
Yeah. So you were the reason.
I know the update. Yeah.
So the update, the update is your book, Fight or Flight, got me through to another level when I had severe stage fright. So I don't even know what I have now. And this is funny. It all comes back to that goddamn Fight or Flight. It was, you don't know the whole thing. I don't think I've spoken about this. You get me to do it, right? So we're rocking. We're doing the personal development. We're hitting the goals. Showcase comes. Scariest day of my life. Comedy showcase, Manhattan. Greg, we're killing it. We're doing it. I do all the preparation. Get on stage. Win the whole thing. This was August 2021.
Right.
Fantastic.
How long were you on stage? How long was that?
It was a 10-minute set. I'm going to send you the set right after this. I'll send it to you. I win this thing, and it's a story. Well, that'll fill you in on my father too. It's a story about, it's really like self-therapy, because it's about my father, and you're growing up. You think my dad's selling coffee, but he's selling cocaine. It's a great bit. It's beautiful. Okay. They give you, the way the world works in comedy. It's like, first you're doing open mics, then you're doing bringer shows, which means you basically, oh, Greg, come to the show, so you can buy a ticket, whatever. I skip that piece and you just get a development deal, which just means you get free time to be on stage, which is like, that's gold basically. So I get signed for this 4-month development deal in New York City. So you're not touring. You're just going to the, basically you're touring. You get like 5-10 minutes. They tell you on Sundays, you're going to show up Monday, whatever. And I'm doing it. And Greg, I'm having the most fun I've had honestly in my life. Cause it's one thing when you go, I was nervous for the showcase. And then by the middle of this, I'm like, I'm doing the whole shtick. The last week of this deal comes up, and let's just say I am not preparing. I think I am Dave Chappelle already. I am not doing the work needed. This was a Monday show, and I went to Florida to party for the weekend before. Not good. So this is one of the last shows I have. There's probably 2 to 3 deals left on the show. Get on stage on a Monday. I don't know what happened, Greg. All of the fears, that one moment that I got that stage fright when I was 15 years old, fluttered into my brain, and I froze on stage, and it totally broke me. And when I say I lost that piece this year, that is the moment that did it. And since that moment, I haven't gotten on stage. I didn't even call the booker back. And I did exactly what I swore I would never do, which is just give up when it gets rough. You got fucked up. Listen, it's a bomb, which is what happens there. It's a really bad bomb. Didn't get back up on stage. Haven't thought about, Greg, I can't even watch comedy. That's how fucking.
Was that early this year or?
That was like November, December.
Yeah.
And that was like the second. It was like, because I would say I was feeling uncomfortable until you really were rolling. And then once you're rolling, and then it just totally fell off. And I would say ever since that, everything has kind of fallen apart, to be honest, if we're totally speaking.
Yeah. So what did you tell yourself about that moment afterwards?
The truth?
Like that deep down, that real,
okay.
ugly stuff.
The truth is, I still, not that I believe, it said all this fucking work you did, all the reps.
But it's always there though. I know. We've all done all the work, and there's still those deep, dark pieces.
That fear. Still honestly, this is not that I've been meaner this year. I would just say I was so positive, and I'm like so more optimistic that I'm like, the darkness always wins. Like that fear came out of nowhere, when in reality, I just didn't prepare. That's I think the truth. But I'm saying, you asked for what I was telling myself. And it's like, no matter what you do, you can't get rid of fears. None of this fucking stuff works. Greg, I canceled my coach, my Tony Robbins coach. I'm like, there's none of this it's a feeling of nihilism, which is scary. That feeling that nothing matters. It's like nothing you ever do will make you overcome it. And now here's the worst part. My cousin, if you're listening, we're in trouble here. He makes me his best man, and I have a fucking best man speech to give next August, and I'm terrified. I'm literally like sick to my stomach about it. So cards are on the table now, Greg. So
did you hear what you said? The key phrase? What do you think the key phrase was for you back then? Do you remember, or are you just talking from your heart?
I'm just talking.
Yeah. The darkness always wins. Was your phrase, man.
Damn.
So what does that set? What does that set up? And I think we all have a phrase like that. All of us do. And that may not be exactly right for you, but just something like that.
No, something of, there's this, I'll be honest. There's 2 sides to every man, right? There's this primitive side, which is we'll get a little scientific the way I try to break this down. There is the reptilian brain that is built on emotions, instincts, that is 150 million years old.
Right.
Then there's mammalian brain. Your mammalian and neo-mammalian brain are 50 million years ago, and 25 million years ago is when thoughts, the next level of thinking, divine thinking, all that stuff, being able to articulate. And if you think about it, we are the emotions have about 100 million years advantage. So those emotions and instincts are 100 million years more advanced.
I love that. That's a great way to say it.
That's I just always look at it from a scientific perspective, and for me, I feel that because when I'm not in touch with the divine side of Scott, I can go off the rails, Greg. And I would say this has been one of the most chaotic years of my life as far as drinking, as far as gambling, sex, everything. And it's like, for what? Like, you already did this. And I really thought, because I did this in when I was 23 or 24, and I thought it was all over. I'm like, oh, okay. That's not the right answer. And then you go on the nice path. And then something destructive happens and you fall back apart. So
Right.
I thought I had everything under control. After I went through a divorce, no problem. I made millions of dollars this year, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then get on stage for 12 people in Manhattan. Fell up fucking crazy, Greg. It's crazy. I can't even believe it, honestly. And I never told the whole thing. And now you know it. So
No, it's out there. So what is the one thing you have left undone in your life or for this next year or whatever?
I think it would be to
What
get
is
on,
it?
it would be to not, I don't know if comedy, it would be to get on stage again.
Yeah.
Honestly. Just because I feel like the reason why that those nerves come up, like, it's such another lesson. Like, that is so important to me, to connect with people on that level. And I think that is, funnily enough, what I should be doing. I don't know, but like you say, but Seeger, I'm talking about, it's what I should be doing. I truly feel that, but at the same point, I'm saying it's the dark side. I can't do it. It doesn't.
Right. Exactly. But
And
until you do it, what are you living in?
despair.
The darkness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Holy
Shaker.
shit,
I don't know
beautiful.
what you just did in 40 minutes, man. You got everything out.
But this is I just, if people will tune in and think, how does this apply to my life? It's like, because it does. We all do this. We all set up our we set our goals, we work towards them, and then somehow we self-sabotage.
Yes.
And it's gonna sound different. Your story is different from my story, from the people listening, but we'll self-sabotage, and then we're like, oh shit, I knew it. I'm done. I'm going back to this bad habit, I'm giving up. And that's life though, right? That's life. I mean, I hope that I see you on Comedy Central next time,
Mm-hmm.
but come on, that doesn't happen to anyone really. There's bumps in the roads, man. And so what are we going to do when we get to those bumps?
Yeah, and I think that part of it is like, you think you're strong, and I would say relatively, I'm, whatever, resilient. But then, like, if you can't deal with like, I always believe, like, it's not when things are good, everybody's happy and cool, but it's who you really are is when the times are rough. If you could put on the smile and just walk through the fire, and I think, like, me doing that way on Saturday, like, trying, and even doing that now, like, put on the best smile, like, literally it's not a fake smile, just like taking it the best I could is like a step in that direction of, like, you saw chaos, you faced a fear in a way, because anytime violence is fear, and like you tried to stop malevolence and evil from happening, and now I'm really trying to hold that dear to my heart, and that's like what I've been pondering. It's like, oh, maybe it's the shift, like it's a pendulum, like this other way, and this is just how I kind of get shifted over. It's just the wacky ways that work. Because literally the same thing with divorce. I had $600 I had nothing, Greg, and built everything back again. And I think with guys like me who are obsessive, maybe it just tends, the highs will be higher and the lows will be lower, because it's like, that's what the unexpected is, right? And if you're expecting the worst, it's just an interesting year it's been, man. This is like a year in review. I feel like it's shit, because it's almost a year since this whole disaster happened.
Yeah, that's true. You're right at the door again of that year. So how are you going to get back on stage, so to speak?
So guys, two options.
Okay.
It's either going to be literally next week, just go do an open mic, 5 minutes, and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Not with no material. Or we could sit and prepare, which I would think, for me, preparation does work better. But what do you think? What would you do with anybody's fear? You think it's better just to throw yourself in the fire?
Here's my thought when you were saying that is, and knowing you over these years now, we've known each other.
Years.
Is of course prepare. However, the open mic is probably the best way, just to go in and go smashing in there and say, here's a little bit of my story, gang. I was on my way up in the comedy world in New York City, and I stood on stage for 10 minutes last time I was on there, and bombed hard, and haven't been on. So here I go again, because I think people will relate to that and be like that emotion, that human side of you, and then be behind you right away. And then you can say it and move forward into starting to build back up to that place you were and the place you want to be.
Yeah.
'Cause you got the material, right? You know what to do. You know what works.
Yeah, you have so much, but that, like, I guess part of it is like the true belief in yourself. And I guess we could talk, I don't know, I'm sure we spoke about this imposter syndrome a little bit, but like that, you keep waiting. I understand now, you have to be the fool to become the king. You always have to, to going through that process of being new at something is always the hardest part, because you're new and you're going to be that is one of my favorite archetypes, is being the jester, the fool, becoming the wise king. And I guess my abilities have always gotten me somewhere a little quicker than usual. But comedy, like, I still felt imposter syndrome like 2 years later. And if you told me I'd do anything, I was like, shit. And I guess there's also the meaning there. Like, yeah, this is something that you have to work at. I think that may be why it's so interesting to me. And let's say it's not even comedy, right? Let's say it's going to be speaking to people on a deeper level about these things, which honestly, for me, gets more exciting. Like, I am starting a little bit behind the start line, I would say. And I think that's why putting in the work is such an interesting thing, because it's like I'm earning every step of the way. Like, I've earned everything when it comes to comedy, because I started with nothing,
Right. I mean, your podcast is another great example. I wanted to see somebody else try to put together over 200 episodes. That's
and
lots of work and dedication.
Like, that's the example, right? Like, this, everybody's like, you have this big thing. I was like, yeah, I knew this was happening. You guys didn't realize. Like, I was saying that, but there was always that belief with this, and it may be because I don't know. It's just like everything comes so easy, but that one thing, it's just like that one stupid thing, and I should be grateful for that, right? Like, making money, people are still sitting here trying to figure out money. Money's fine. We'll make money.
Yeah.
Fine. Like, everything with all these other things, I'm sitting here worrying about 13 people, and like that, Greg, that's the worst part. This Monday show. So, Monday shows are the weakest shows. People always bomb on Mondays, and it was like for 11 people or 12 people. And all of this whole chaos year for fucking 12 idiots, tourists from fucking France or some shit.
I didn't understand anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's a great, man. Like, and so what have you spent your whole year focused on? Things are going well at work. We have some family things that you're working through, I know. But we keep coming back to the comedy.
Yeah, man. Just keep, and like, that's what I'm saying. If like, listen, I always felt that as you're like, I can't tell now, because I feel like, like, if you asked me the day before this whole thing happened, I would have been like, this is the best. This is great. There was nothing cooler than that. Like, honestly, I couldn't tell you, because like you're on the Thursday night shows, you're doing it, people are dying. There's nothing like that connection. But ever since the blow up, or whatever you call it, there's been like excuses made up for me. And I would say I've even told people excuses on the podcast, like, oh, well, comedy's a little bit of a shallow art and this and that. It's like, it's because you fucked up, you bitch. And that's me being real with you, Gregory.
Right. That's what people want. That's what I mean. That goes back to what we were saying earlier. You know the truth, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, like, you feel like you really fucked up, and it was really dark. It was really dark that night. It was really dark afterwards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I let basically from 15 to 27, I let 12 years of these opportunities. Like, I literally avoided them, and now we're on a year of avoiding.
And now you're back at that 15-year-old, right? Yeah.
Fuck, I am.
Until you get back on stage. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, but you got to do something to get out of that, to prove yourself that that's not the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just doing public speak, because like, I was supposed to speak at the New York City speaking event. I had the head president come on the podcast. I didn't show up, Greg. I'm a bitch, Greg. I'm a bitch, bro. Jesus Christ.
See, darkness continues to win, right? Until you do something different. Oh man.
Yeah, and I think what I've been reading Plato. And what Plato says is, it's not so much that there's even darkness. It's that you're just sort of, I'm going to butcher it, but he's basically saying you're just facing the wrong way, that you're always in the light. So it's just turning around. and then you'll see the sun there because the sun's always there, or the moon's always there. The light is always there. And that's what I feel like happened this week. Like, oh shit, it's not that bad. Like, what have you been bitching about? Like, what the fuck have you been complaining about?
That's good. That's one of the basic principles of personal growth, right? Your life goes where you focus. And if we focus on our defeats, our falling down, the bad stuff, that's what we're going to see. And that's what we're going to see more of. If we
Right. That's
focus on
all.
where we're
Yeah.
going, that's when cool things start to happen. You get more of what you want.
How have you found the best ways to kind of break your cycles of that negative thinking?
For me, it's to when I can. For me, and I bet you can too on some level, when I get into a situation where I'm like start to feel uncomfortable or like, oh, like I'm gonna make a mistake here. That's probably one of my big cues. Like, ooh, I'm gonna make a mistake. This is not gonna go well. If I can just capture that and know like, oh, here I am again, as this fear of making a mistake, and it's never gonna get worked out, then I can go inside of myself and say, how would a true leader handle this situation? And then that redirects my energy and my thoughts away from the fear of making a mistake into how is a true leader gonna, that's my word, how is a true leader gonna handle the situation? And then it gives me a target to go towards. Instead of running away from making a mistake, I go towards being a leader in my life. And that's how I want to be seen. And that's what I'm capable of too.
Dude, that's a nice little shortcut, Greg.
Mm.
Are you picking somebody in specific in your mind, like to almost envision to be like them, or just how would a leader act in general?
No, for me, that's like a key word for me. Like a leader, I know a leader is going to stand up. They're going to speak their mind. They're going to look a person in the eye. They're going to say their truth, and then move forward to the next best step. They can handle whatever comes back. They can handle it, and so I can handle whatever's coming next. I can handle it. That's where I choose to focus now, is being on a leader. I'm writing books and going on podcasts instead of being scared. What are they going to think? Or what are my buddies going to think of this book now? Are they going to laugh at the story? No. But if I focus on it, it'll keep me from ever publishing another book, right?
Yeah.
It'll keep you from getting on stage as long as you allow it.
Amen to that, Greg. So instead of me getting mugged, I could have just asked myself what a leader would do, and this would have solved the whole freaking thing.
Probably not. You have to live life, right? First, you have to get out there and live life, and then we gotta start figuring this out. I start figuring it out.
Oh, dude, I guess it's part of my journey of understanding, like, don't let yourself get to that point where you're kind of forced to make change. Actively, voluntarily put yourself in the change and be able to move your way through it that way,
People are scared of change, and they get so uncomfortable. Finally, they change, but there's really no reason for it to be uncomfortable and painful if you seek out the best change for you, I think.
Very true, Greg. Now, enough about me now. What have you been up to?
This is this is what I love talking to you, Scott. Like, so you're so real and open.
Dude, but I feel that way about you. That's why it's just so cool. I'm like, yo, Greg's just gonna get me the real shit, because like it. I'm grateful. I'm really grateful to have. I feel like this is like it all happened a certain way. This morning, I chatted with a enlightened spiritual cat. Shout out to Shiva Das. These episodes coming out next week with Greg's. It's gonna be beautiful. It's just like these things all happen for like it's not a coincidence that I'm ending my week with Gregory B. Davis today. Like I don't doubt that at all. And it's like you got to start paying attention. For me, I got to start like paying attention more to like what those signs are, because I feel like they've all been in front of me the whole time. And I've just been sitting here like neglecting them.
I think that's true. In some way, that's your comfort zone. Because when you started texting me today, I was thinking, I was like, oh, I had all these questions for you. I was like, hope Scott gives me some time to talk and ask him some questions. And then of course you're like, that's the first thing out of your mouth. Ask me some questions about this. I'm like, yes. But what I was thinking about, wanted to talk about, was comfort zone and how that robs us in life of having that life we want. I was like, because we've talked a little bit about it. I've been really profoundly thinking about like, what is the purpose of life? How do I direct my life and have the most purposeful, most full life possible? And then I realized, I believe it's about having different experiences, about whatever that is for you, having different experiences that fill you up, and then being surrounded and surround yourself with people you love. And so I started thinking, what keeps us from having those really cool experiences in life? And I kept coming back to our comfort zone. And I'm sure you've had people on your podcast talk about comfort zone a lot. It's a great ideal.
Dude, there's this, we've spoken a lot this year about balance, right? And I think you have to learn the balance of doing the things that, you feel comfortable with, your everyday monotonous stuff, because that's life. But at the same point, throwing in that percentage of diversity and that uncomfortability, I think is a good word. And figuring out yours is important. Because I would say even right when I started this, and I was juggling building the business, the day job, doing the comedy, and you're running a new podcast, you are a little bit in too much of a frazzled brain. So this year, being on the opposite end, where podcast is steady, I know what to do, I feel comfortable. I would say I've lived the comfort zone this year, and there's zero growth. That's why it's the comfort zone. Like even at the gym, Greg, like I've done my same routine, over and over, and not saying, you look great, but it's just maintaining. And I think people like us, or people that want just to see growth, you're not going to get that by maintaining. Maintaining is not what we do.
No. So with that, that's right. So what I had added into that is the people in our life, the people that love us, they want to see us growing, right? They want to see us getting out and having more of whatever we want in our lives. And so I was like, oh, it's not about me just living life. It's about me living my life that I want outside of that comfort zone, and then taking those people in my life with me. And I was like, that's my purpose for my life, is to live outside of my comfort zone. And then just to keep this conversation somewhat simple, is to take my little boy with me and show him life is not here in this circle that I've created for myself. Life is outside of the circle. Yes. That's life. You do have to do those things. You have to pay the mortgage. You have to buy food. But life is just waiting outside of that circle. And so whenever he's not going to get outside of his circle if I don't get outside of my circle, my comfort zone. And so that's where I was like, oh, that's my purpose in life, is to get outside of my comfort zone, do things that scare me to death, and prove to myself that it's not that big a deal. Have those experiences, and then take him with me to prove him that life is full. The fullest part of life is outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been working on.
I love that. So the next book, is that going to be about comfort zone?
It's going to be about comfort zone, about and then taking your loved ones with you outside of the comfort zone and meeting a life. Yeah.
Have you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning?
I have.
Dude, Greg, I finished that, and again, no coincidence. Finished it 2 days ago. And for people that, and I can get your view on it, but for me, I think what Frankl states, and for people that don't know, I can't suggest a better book. It's about a psychologist who was put in a concentration camp. It's basically his journaling of what happens physiologically, psychologically to the human condition, and what he thought the meaning of life is. And to quote, or to paraphrase, I would say Frankl concludes that the meaning of life is found in every moment of living. That life never ceases to have meaning, even in your suffering, even in your death. It's and then I don't remember what he says, but he says something like, it's not about you, every man will question, what is my meaning of life? It is recognizing that the question is being asked by you, and the answer that you give it. And that's that book shook. And then again, this book finished this, reading again, just like this week. It's just a fucking crazy week. What did that book mean to you?
It's a good week.
Yeah,
that's a great. I mean, crazy. I agree with you. Everyone should read that book. I mean, it's been a number of years since I've read it, to be honest. What I took away from it, one thing I took away from it was, it's incredible what humans will do to other humans, But for him to define his life during and after in a way to bring value to himself and to, people of the world. That I have so much respect. Like that's deep respect for someone that lives their lives to the extent where they're giving back their knowledge. And I'll take that every time and go forth. And yeah, that person did this to me, but I can choose what I do with it going forward.
And that's the cool piece, right? Because he says
Oh.
It's not about the result of your conditions of life, but it's the freedom you have to choose what you feel and how you feel about life, even staring death in the eye and under severe suffering. It's unbelievable.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
And that's what he goes through this, and then there was a little bit afterward there that he did it like 1984, maybe somebody wrote it for him, but he mentioned this interesting piece that a person could change, you could truly change on a dime. And he brought up the worst person that he met at the concentration camp. It was called Dr. J. He was in charge of the torturing and the gas chambering of the people. And he got to meet him after. And so he was going into this meeting thinking, oh, this guy's going to be this is the worst human being ever. And this man was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. And he said he was a totally different human being. He was so grateful. He was so apologetic. It was like a black and white situation. And I think part of that is not don't have to go through these don't have to get your cancer. Don't have to get mugged to go through the change. Be the change. You fucking idiot. That's,
This is one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life.
Whoa, Greg, this shit got really good, man. My God. So you've been writing about this. I love that you're talking about the meaning of life, because I think for you, I love hearing, like, I respect everything you say so much because it's always intertwined with connection. And I think particularly with your family, particularly with the people around you. And that is something I had, like, going through this again this week. Like my family was reaching out. Like, I'm like, oh, they'll care about you. It's just, you're just fucking stupid. Like, everybody's always like, it's just an interesting thing. All these things you think you don't have, they just pop up when you least expect them. It's like, oh, they were there. You're just not looking.
Yeah, you're reaching out to the back, right? You're not accepting the back. And I'm sure you have a huge cheering section in life, as almost everybody does. But do you utilize it? We're like what we were saying earlier. Which way are you facing? Are you facing towards them, or are you putting your back towards them?
Right, dude. Unbelievable. And I know I'm lucky enough to have those 8 guy cousins that are with us, and like we're the people coming out the woodwork. Like my sister's like trying to find these guys. We're gonna get them. I'm like, relax. Take it easy. Like, whatever. Interesting, man. So you're gonna be talking about the meaning of life. You're gonna be talking about the comfort zone. But I think it's fair to say the person, let's say anybody's meaning, whether it be your family oriented like yourself or something else, money for some, whatever this is, it is going to get there. You have to kind of get outside that comfort zone.
Yeah. But I think we have to be, I would suggest as individuals, as humans, we have to be very, very careful on what we focus on and what we want in our life. Because if we focus on something that is unhealthy in a way, then we end up, in the end, it's going to let us down. And I always wonder about money. I like money. I have nothing wrong with money, but the chasing of money, if that's the only focus in life, what does that get you? And I believe in the end, it's never going to be enough, and it's going to let you down. The chasing of power, we have the famous saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't think that's the meaning of life, is to chase those things solely. It's part of life, but to solely focus on those things, they're going to come back and bite us instead of reward us in life.
That's the scary part, Greg, is I think the Western culture is so focused on that. And even, I'd say young 20 Scott was so, I just wanted to get the money. And you get it. It's like, oh, this isn't the answer. And, that's what even this year, I've just done it with all the other things. Like you're grasping at sand, and the harder you grasp, the more kind of you just see it go through. And I think for anybody listening, you have to sit with your thoughts and just, people always, I get this email, Greg, like, well, Scott, I don't know what my meaning of life is. How do I figure this out? And I go, I don't fucking know. I'm trying to figure it too. But I think if you sit on your bed one night, maybe the stars are out from the outside, and you just ask the question, just ask yourself, like, what does the highest meaning of life mean to me? Like for me, and I've done this multiple times. If you ask yourself that question, people, you'll get that answer. It'll pop up. For me, it was always people, and it was a feeling of making others feel good and being able to give a positive, some sort of positive thing, and minimize suffering of a person, whether it be laughing, making them laugh, or giving them a little bit of insight. Like, and for now, I think that is good enough for me. And like, I had shout out to Todd Spars, came on the podcast. He said, what I did was I asked myself what made me feel the happiest throughout the day without including a drug or sex or one of these kind of devices. And he just, that feeling was the highest feeling. And I would agree with Todd that that's the feeling that I feel at my best. Is like, that's the best currency I can get, is when I get the email from a person. I'm sure you get that when you get somebody from your book commenting or you get a review. Like, that is what it's about, because you are transcending your mortal being into another person in a way that you're pushing transcendence across time and space. And that's what I think, if you talk about, any of the philosophers, that's what they're trying to do with their work, or discussing this. You're trying to be here as a normal person in space and time, but also transcend it. And I think that's the cool part of this primitive and divine being stuff that we're so, at least I'm so wrapped up in. That's like, there's a material world, Greg, and I'm lucky enough to be good at it, but like, like that's on autopilot. I'm trying to figure out, like, how are we going to leave our mark,
Right. How are we going to leave our mark? Yeah. Like, I see it as like a legacy, like how giving it away to create a legacy in life. And it's not about the legacy. It's about lifting up every individual that you come in contact with. And I think, once again, that doesn't happen inside of a comfort zone. All of us have a legacy. All of us have gifts to give to other people. But as long as we're hanging out in that tight little box, not much is going to happen in there. And so once we step out and live life and show people, you're showing us how to live your life to the fullest, then it creates all of us moving forward into our own fullest life, I believe. I think it's hard. I think it's really hard. I think silence, getting alone and thinking, is one of the few ways to do it. Maybe getting with a knowledgeable person and asking questions of each other.
But then having these real conversations. Like, I'm lucky enough to have a Greg Davis in my life. So I think maybe you don't have to do it over a podcast, but you could just call somebody and say, listen, I'm dealing with this thing. Like, and like, my little cousin called me yesterday, and I would say I'm his big brother at this point, right? He's 23, stud kid. And he called, and again, another thing this week, I'm like sitting here, I can't believe all this shit's happened. He called me, he said, yo, I know you're going through a lot of shit. And he's like, I just want you to know, like, how important you are to me, and like how you really shaped everything, how I'm viewing life. And I was like, oh my God. I sat there and cried after the call. And I was like, oh my God. Like, you do it with your family and through your books. And like, I think everybody should just take that approach and try to, like, I didn't even realize, I was like, I'm having the worst year of my life. And just showing up is half the battle. Cause, you have to, I think that self-talk, you're so hard on yourself. It's like, nobody realizes how hard we could be on ourselves. That's why most people don't know what's going on.
If people get honest about that, about the self-talk, then they would head another direction, right? I mean, I think your cousin reaching out to you is a perfect example of, you've created that relationship. He sees something in you he respects, and you've created the safety for him to say those words. Then that's a quality relationship that y'all can both benefit from.
Yeah. And I think when you do things that, like, there's always this duality to things, like the yin and the yang. They imply, so every time you go outside the box, it's going to feel weird because it's outside the box. So if you want to be unique, I think people, even I forgot, like, oh, I'm going to do unique things. It means you're fucking weird. You can't be both. It's just how it is. And you have to you have to learn to, like, accept those sacrifices, because it's just funny. Like, you never see with the payment, there's always a payment due. And I think you have to step outside, truly outside the box, and step outside the comfort zone. You're going to have to not be scared what people think of you. You're going to have to not worry about being weird or unique or this. This is your purpose. That's why you sit down with your thoughts, you align them, you make sure that it's positive. That's one of these higher values, none of this money, power bullshit. That is like drinking salt water. It's something that truly fulfills your soul. And that's the only way I can really describe it.
It's tough because I like, if I see Scott, I'm like, oh, I want to be like Scott. He's got this podcast going. He's got the material thing figured out. Man, I want to be like Scott. Well, yeah, go back to Scott a couple of years ago and think about him putting on those first few podcasts. It's not that easy. What am I going to talk about? Who's going to come on my show?
Dude, Greg, I would get so sick, bro. Greg, I would get so sick. Now I literally, for
Exactly.
you, I was doing yoga before. I was like, Greg, dude, I could do this for 3 hours now. It's just, but like, I didn't realize I was kind of preparing myself. Like I would get myself, like when I have the scientists on, the neuroscientists, shout out to John Leaf. I had John Leaf, Greg, he was like MD, Yale, Harvard. I'm like, what am I going to talk to this guy about? And I did, you do your prep, you do, and now it's like, great, John's coming on again next week. It's like, it becomes that's the cool part. It's like if you're in your comfort zone and I'm making a circle and you step out, then that's right. Now your comfort zone becomes the uncomfort zone, and you just keep kind of just growing and pushing it. So I think that could be daunting to some people. For me, it's not, because it's like, that's the point of life, is to continuously expand, like the universe expanding right now as we speak. Right. And like, this is what we are here to do, not only from a personal development standpoint, but from a consciousness standpoint. That's, I would say, for me, if you ask me, like, that's what I would want to do, is expand my consciousness to the point where I could see what other, like, have these other perspectives, and, you just get out of your own head and just see everything, that open consciousness. It's such an important thing. And I think in today's day and age, this is it's such an important conversation, because a lot of people are living directly in their comfort zone. If you look at a kid with their phone, eating the fast food, like it's all comfort. That's really what some people built their lives on.
Right. And they're not even considering the comfort zone. They're not even considering getting out of it. I think that would be my one question to the audience from today is, what is one thing you can do to get outside of that comfort zone right now? And just to prove that there's life just waiting for you out there, to really live big instead of live in that comfort zone, because that time's going to pass either way, right? Time's going to keep going. And if you spend it inside your comfort zone, so be it. That's not the way it's meant to be spent, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think you have to pick whether you're going to live with the regret, or you're going to live with living in the uncomfortable zone, or living, you can call it discipline, or you could call it, any of that. You have to pick. And I picked, well, I guess I'm not picking it right now because I'm bitching out, but like, I don't want to have that regret, right? I want to have Greg on this podcast, episode 2000, when we're 50. I'm going to be 50 years old. Greg's going to be 65, 70. But I'm going to do it now. I don't want to live with that, Greg. And I think finding, maybe that's something to think about, is finding that leverage that'll get you to do it. And maybe that's it, is it's regret. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah. And for me, the answer is, like you were saying, like, I put myself at 70 looking back at my life. Do I want to see myself sitting on the couch, or do I want to see myself out doing whatever I thought was the most impactful thing in the moment, going on podcasts? That's an easy one. I put it that way for me. There's no regret in being on the podcast today. I've only created higher conscious for us,
Yeah, man.
The couch doesn't do much for me.
No. And listen, it's all about this balancing piece. It's like, figure out what you want to do that's going to get you uncomfortable, and just push the line a little bit. Don't overdo it, because I feel like if you overdo it, you end up, getting too hot by the fire.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, for anybody, and I know some of y'all, you're listening, I get these emails, we're trying to work through it. If you have any questions about moving, if you're in the darkness like me, I think it's time, Greg, and I think we could stamp it now. It's September 16th. This is coming out a week before. We are out of the darkness. And that's the name of the episode.
The darkness. I love it. That's it. Out of the darkness. I'm gonna shoot that to you.
Yeah, that's smart. Greg, I can't believe we've been talking for like an hour and 15 here. This is cool. Dude, thank you for coming on. Everybody, just to quickly, I just want to do the little bit of a sell for Greg, because I've read each of them. Wisdom is the Beginning, wonderful book. Life Unspoken, Fight or Flight. Those three are Greg's books. I'm going to link that below. Just if you're trying to like move get moving, I would say try fight or flight. And if you're looking for some wisdom, Life Unspoken and Wisdom is the Beginning, those two hit me too. And we'll just keep chatting, dude. I love you, Greg. Seriously, man.
Yeah. When I get the next one out, it'll be head off the press heading to your direction.
Absolutely. You're gonna come on. We'll do the whole thing here, man.
Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Seriously. All the Cause and the Effect community, thank you guys so much for just the blowing up. Thank you, Greg, again. Thank you for being here from the bottom floor. Anybody listening, thank you guys so much for all the support. We appreciate it. I would say if you could do me one favor, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Tell one of your friends about it. That's it. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.